It's a pleasure to have you on. So why don't we just get right into it? Tell me a little bit
Sure.
about your background, your story, and how kind
Right
of
on.
you got involved in the space.
Yeah. So I was very early on in the social media space. Before it was called social media, it was just called business blogging. And I launched my blog way early in the market. And I built companies. I had my whole industry. So social community was always a thing that was so core to me. I was an industry analyst at Forrester covering social computing, and then I launched a number of firms and companies, and now continue to be in Silicon Valley. So I even started a secular holiday called Community Manager Appreciation Day, which happens every third Monday of January, and that's been going on for 11 years. So community's always been a key part of what I've been doing and new technology. So thinking about people and tech is what brought me to the social token space. So hello, and I'm coming to you from the tiny Airstream studios in my backyard.
Amazing. And as you know, you being such, I guess, a forefront with adopting social currencies and also kind of getting the greater crypto world and more mainstream world to adopt them as well. You're obviously seeing communities are evolving, right?
Yeah.
You having such a deep experience building communities. Now we're shifting communities into a more Web3 type of native model.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? And what are like those major differences that you see from traditional communities and now their shift being more kind of quote unquote Web3 native?
Well, I mean, if you go back to when Web 2 emerged, it's the exact same talking points that we heard. And here's what happens is the distributed players that enabled the communities, they ended up becoming the giant one percenters. Like, at one point, the people creating Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube, they were upstart. They were rebels. They were anarchists. They were like, let's bring down the system. Let's stop big media. Let's stop press releases. Let's stop advertising. Let's break it. Let's bring the power to the people. And then they became billionaires. And then it started all over again. And I saw that same thing, by the way, in the next market, the collaborative sharing gig economy, where they all said, let's share, everybody share everything, share their homes, share their cars, share your time. Those companies became giant behemoths as well. So that pattern repeats over and over. Will it repeat with DeFi and Web 3.0 and crypto? Probably. If history tells you anything, it's going to happen again. So I'm actually a little concerned that we'll see the same things. Like a lot of the rhetoric at the Bitcoin conference, and we heard, smash, Wall Street, and you can see how New York is trying to stop it, and New York's not friendly to crypto as compared to Miami or San Francisco. Yeah, I hear it now, but fast forward 7 years from now, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, you see the development from Web 1.0 being read-only and that transitioning and being eaten alive by Web 2.0, where you create social networks and social communities. And now we're like kind of like a 2.5 where we're slowly transitioning into more of this ownership type of model, but still living on these more centralized platforms. I'd be curious, like how that kind of comes into play on the more aggressive side, like you said. When it gets to the point where people are preaching these ethoses of like decentralization, of ownership, community, blah, 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 you'll still have those players that I guess will take it to the next level in the extreme and kind of dilute that value. No?
Two things will happen. So one is a 1%er or a big platform will emerge from the crowd, and they themselves will become a big platform. Any big exchange, for example, or anybody who owns a significant of crypto can influence and push people around, right? There's a lot of criticisms of Elon Musk of being such a person right now.
Sure.
And the second thing is there's nothing stopping from those big companies, whether they be big tech or big Wall Street or big bank, from moving into this market, whether it be acquisition or launching the other stuff. Yes, they're slow. I get it. Totally get it. But right now, you can't find a single media company or traditional Hollywood company that doesn't incorporate social media into their core business strategy, right? I mean, in fact, in many cases, they're the primary revenue generators for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and beyond. They're the same industry at this point. So it's important to separate the rhetoric of rebellion talk versus integration.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's crazy because we're so early into this stuff and you're still in that like lovey-dovey phase kind of thing where people are talking about the community, the ownership, and you haven't gotten necessarily to the rebellious side just yet, where you have these big platforms taking over and taking control of these quote unquote creator coins that are destined to be more in the control of the creator.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
But you see it the other way around. You see platforms taking control of creator coins while giving creators the tools and flexibility to utilize them. What do you kind of see out playing here?
So this is the goal that we need to do, is enable creators to have the power to run their own economies. And so I've known the Rally founder Kevin Chu for over 10 years. I was on his prior board, and he is a successful entrepreneur. And his name, he's a philanthropist. His name is on the building at UC Berkeley. So he's a trusted person in the community. And so that's important, because there's other projects, in the market that you just don't even know who created them. So the trust aspect is critical. And right now, many creators are beholden to the large social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube. And at a whim, the algorithms could change and you could lose your audience. Or if you even signal that, or in Clubhouse, for example, as another one, people are unsure on how to navigate. And if you even suggest that you're going to go off to another platform, they could actually start to shadow ban you, and you might lose your audience. Or if you try to bring your own new types of monetization and it's not approved by them, that could create strife as well. So in many cases, these creators are beholden. In fact, Mark Zuckerberg today during the Apple keynote was putting out messages on Facebook, like how they're going to enable all of their tools to be free for creators in order to compete with Apple and at a lower cost. So we see them all messaging, but in history, they've never paid creators in the past. So it's really not there. So lo and behold, we are now at the social token space. And I really love that idea of social token, because social is my background, right? Because I was one of the first tech analysts in the social networking space over 10 years ago. So all of this makes a lot of sense to me, giving the power over to the individuals and letting them. And basically the vision is this. It enables creators to turn their communities into economies. That's the way I see it, turning your community or enabling your community to be an economy. So, and that's a very powerful thing. And the key thing is that it needs to enable the creators to work from platform to platform. You should be able to have those relationships with your fans, regardless of what platform you use. Today it's Twitch, maybe it's Substack tomorrow, it's YouTube a third day, I'm on StreamYard right now, right? Where am I gonna be? It doesn't matter. My relationships, my social graph, my economics should go with me as I create content.
But that's the trick, how? Because all these platforms are gonna have to find a way to integrate these social tokens very seamlessly into the interactions of their platforms, right? Like, how would StreamYard, like, how would they do that? Because their infrastructure is built differently.
Sure.
How do you take a more Web3 type of, I guess, infrastructure and implement it seamlessly into more of a Web2 native infrastructure?
Yeah. So there's a term that we've been using called CoinGate, just like there's PayGate. So you could have a coin-gated private StreamYard, or only the recordings of YouTube, in it for premium. Maybe you put the short version of an interview, like the 5-minute version, up on YouTube, so you have marketing buzz. And then for those that want to see the whole 60-minute interview, they have to own the coin, and you can do an API call to the Rally website and then grant them access to different sites. For example, we've done this with the third-party developers in Clubhouse rooms. We actually were able to use paidrooms.ch. It was third-party developers that built that, and then they could go to a private Clubhouse room. Also, a common use case is we have Discord channels for creators. And the Discord, it uses a Coinbot robot, and it checks to see, do you have X amount of JOW coin? That's my coin, JOW, like JWoww from Jersey Shores. And but the most famous use case is Portugal the Man, which is a music artist group, and they have their own private Discord, and you have to own 10 PTM coins, and you can access this premium content. And so that's a common thing that we do. And we're experimenting to use it for premium newsletters, premium podcasts, or behind the scenes. Even with the show, you can integrate it, like whoever owns the coin, and you can do an API call. They can ask the first questions, or they get shout outs, or if they donate coin during this live show, you say,
Sure.
John Doe has donated coin to us right now, and really trying to make the conversation happen. So that's the way you can make it premium.
Let's dissect that for a minute, because you brought up 2 points. You talked about bringing and creating like access type of content where you have to pay to kind of consume. But then there's also that conversation where people don't want to create barriers to entry per se, and they rather reward people for participating. Where is that fine line, right? How do you kind of separate the two?
Right. Well, first, the mindset is it's really not always about creator and fan. We're one community. And you hear artists like the really progressive artists saying things like this, like BT says things, Imogen Heap, like, where it's a collaborative. In fact, the best creators are collaborating with their fans because they tell them what they like, what they don't like. And I mean, it is a collaboration, and that is something that technology always enables us to do. So with that mindset, what we encourage the creators at Rally to do is to first reward and give away their coin to their best fans when they launch. And it's a very simple mechanism you can do. You can send coin, and we ask them to actually fill out the Rally ID, the users, the fans. And then once we have the Rally ID, excuse me, I can send them the JOW coin or the Portugal the Man coin or whatever coin it is. And this helps to create the currency circulating within the community. And so that's the very first thing. We're also working on some features where we can reward our fans for sharing our content. So there's features where if somebody tweets out, this is a feature that exists. Third-party developers build everything. By the way, the third-party developers can apply for the Rally tokens as a development fund. Real quick factoid: 71% of Rally the economy is owned by the creators, communities, and developers.
Wow.
29% is owned by the team and investors and advisors. So it is not fully a DAO yet, but we're headed that way. But we do want a central team because it helps us to onboard many creators who are not crypto native.
Sure. I mean, if you look at like more traditional DeFi projects like MakerDAO, for example, they started off decentralized through a DAO point of view, but they had the foundation, that centralized figure that helped build and onboard institutional money, retail money, education, et cetera, make them that dominant player. And now they're working on transitioning and handing over the keys to the community. I think it's a very standard type of strategy.
That is right.
So go ahead. Yeah.
So going back to the relationship, creators, you want to give the coin to your community and you want to let them earn it. Those that are your super fans, like give it to them. And then what creators do is they create up what we call campaigns. And you could turn in the coin that you have either purchased from the creator or earned or traded other crypto by bridging in and use that coin for whatever campaigns. For example, I have campaigns for, I have a decent Twitter following for my business audience, and people have been purchasing paid tweets, and I'll tweet out their product or their show or whatever it is. Of course, I have editorial approval. It's got to be a fit, right? I'm not going to push out anything I don't believe in personally, or people want my time. So there's other ways. And we have creators that just use it as the coin gate. For example, we talked about creators that just have private rooms in Clubhouse or in Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or Slack or Discord, where you can do that as well. But the one thing that is unique about Rally is there's a dividend that is provided to coin holders, and this is called Rally Rewards. And there's been a significant amount of money. So some of the creators that have very successful communities, I have the stats here right from the core team, they are driving $100,000 in rewards to the coin holders in their community per week.
Crazy.
Per week. And so basically what happens is when people purchase the coin, the value of the coin goes up. And so there's a dividend that's released. There's a formula that figures it out. Is the current week in coin activations higher than the last 4 rolling weeks? If so, then it kicks out a Rally Rewards every Saturday to the coin holders. Who's a coin holder? Anybody who earned the coin, bought the coin, and of course the creator owns a significant, but not always the majority. The successful coins, the community owns more of their coin.
Right.
So in a way, it's like a shared rewards. It's a shared outcome. It's aligned outcomes when the creator and the community are working together. And that's really what I love about the project.
So there's actually a lot to unfold right there. So the first thing is an insane stat, 100K per week being rewarded in dividends to people who are holding these creator tokens as a thank you, as a support. But what can they do with that 100K? Can they cash out? Can they go to Uniswap? Can they exchange it for USDC and put that in their bank account and spend that to pay rent? They can do that.
Yes. So the Rally, yes, the answer is yes. So the Rally Rewards, except there's some states where it's more challenging. For example, New York. Right? But that's New York. So I'm in California. So what happens is I get my Rally Rewards and I'm looking at them now, and my coin has issued around 10 to 15,000 US dollars worth of rally token to the coin holders. I own 43% of my own coin. Do I need to back up on the math?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I own 43% of my own coin. So it means over 50% of my fans have purchased the coin. So I'm not only benefiting, many other people are benefiting from these rally rewards. And the rewards are issued out in these percentages in that way. And so what happens is you receive the rally tokens in your portfolio on the rally account, and then you could bridge out. Of course, there's some states where there's limitations on that, and of course, you can bridge to your blockchain crypto wallet.
Got you. And if people are kind of like debating, or creators are debating, I guess, whether or not to do a more traditional way, like an ERC20 way, where they mint a token on Ethereum, or they do it on a layer 2 like Polygon, okay, to mitigate transaction fees, they create an they create an ETH token pair,
Gotcha.
right? And that kind of drives the value, versus going through Rally and leveraging the Rally token as the underlying value for their token, plus the supply and demand pressure from their friends too, right? That's how I'm understanding how it works. So it's not just pegged to Rally, it's also dependent on the supply and demand pressure, right? Or more of the demand pressure, at least.
Perhaps. I don't have all the answers. So Rally is an Ethereum project, ERC20. So, but I'm not a blockchain expert, so I can't go much deeper than that. But I can connect you to the team. But what do you mean by the supply chain pressures? I don't know.
So a lot of like the way these bonding curves work is that they appreciate in value based off supply pressure or demand pressures. Demand pressure. So the more people that buy into it, the higher the price, and that's kind of how it sounds like with Rally, right?
So that is true. That is true. But there's no quote penalty if you don't. You know, it's and creators do not have to purchase the coin. It's, by the way, there's only been around 140 coins that have launched, 134. So it's invite only. There's a very strict review process. Like, we're looking for the right types of creators that have certain criteria. I can tell you about that later. So, and they don't pay money to join. So it's not like they're penalized, but then, you know, they're just not, I mean, you want to incorporate this in as a creator, what you're already doing. So it should aid you in what you're doing. It's not like you need to go out and quote pimp your coin. That's really not the point of this.
Sure. No, I hear you. No, I only asked that because, you know, your people are diving more and more into this creator economy. They're realizing that these Web 2.0, 2.5 platforms are great at building audiences, but they suck at monetizing them. And they're reverting more to these creator coins to try to create more access and incentives to motivate their audience to create a more intimate type of collective type of experience with their fans. And it's super easy to go on Rally and to launch a token, but there's other options too, right? Maybe when a creator is thinking, should I go and launch my own ERC20 token, a standard Ethereum token?
Okay, let's talk about that.
Right. So like what when you explain these things to artists, how do you guide them through this thought process?
So for many creators and artists and digital artists and podcasters and you know, Clubhouse folks, this literally is the first time they've ever touched crypto.
Right.
Literally, like this is me, and then of course their fans, even less likely to have ever touched crypto.
Right.
Okay, a few of them we know that they've purchased coins on Coinbase, right? Very traditional credit card. Like many of them actually never even had a wallet, right? So in many ways, this is the mainstream. You know, when you go to the Rally website and create your own ID, you'll see that it's very simple to use. You know, it's a very simple UI, and there's clear icons, and there's like, you know, navs, and it's simple to use. It's very different than using a wallet, and you don't see, you know, large, you know, DEX has you know, numbers, and there's no gas fees to worry about, and you don't need to worry about, do you have enough Ethereum to cover a transaction, and what happened, you know, all of that is stripped out. So it's just simple for creators and their fans to use. Now, of course, the DeFi, you know, zealots like, well, everything should be completely just distributed, and I understand their point of view, but for my auntie and my uncle, you know, and for, you know, people that are not going to be crypto native, you're going to miss that complete sector, right? But I believe the stats are less than 10% of Americans own crypto. So when we're dealing with creators, you have to make this accessible for mass market.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And I think that's a powerful selling point because you're right. These creators, and I think about this a lot because like creator coins are a new era of influencer marketing. Like they're onboarding this new era of users, right? That otherwise maybe wouldn't have actually tampered with crypto. They wouldn't
Hmm.
have even thought about using cryptocurrencies. So any platform that's actually willing and able to engage these creators and onboard
Hmm.
their audience, they have a lot of responsibility on their hand with making the process as seamless, as clear, and as cut as possible. And I think where we're at right now with Ethereum, Solana, Zilliqa, all these other like
Uh-huh.
layer one, layer two solutions, um, they haven't really kind of like done an amazing job with justifying that user journey and onboarding people. Obviously, like think about the NFT space. When you're trying to mint an NFT on OpenSea, there's an
Yep.
initiation transaction just to interact with the smart contract. And depending on the gas fees, you could be paying anywhere between a
Hundreds.
dollar to like
I
hundreds
paid
of dollars,
hundreds. Yeah, I
right?
paid
But
hundreds.
and that's without even minting, just to interact with the smart
Hmm.
contract to kind of unlock your wallet with the network. So you're right, the onboarding journey sucks. And I think that's where Rally does a really, really good job
Hmm.
in kind of showing creators that hey, you can do this, and we've actually made it really easy as well.
In a sidechain, that's right. And,
Yeah.
and NFTs are going to be launching on Rally next month as well. So, and that'll all happen without gas fees. So we're trying to make it a simple way for creators to manage an economy in that way.
Yeah. Now let's try to think like 3, 4 years down the line, assuming all this all this crypto stuff gets easier, right? Assuming you don't need more of like centralized platforms to help onboard crypto, it
Right.
becomes easier to download a MetaMask. It becomes easier to transfer ETH from Coinbase to your MetaMask, to interact with smart contracts. That whole user flow becomes much easier. And creators start to realize, wait a minute, there's actually power in doing it in a decentralized way, like these DeFi maxis kind of
Hmm.
preach, right? How does that kind of play
Sure.
into Rowley's timeline? How are you guys thinking about that?
Well, I am not building the timeline. That is for the core
Right.
team as an
So I guess
advisor.
from your point of
But
view, at
from my
least,
point of view,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we shouldn't never say crypto. It should be completely in the background. So take, for example, 15 years ago in the social media space, there was a new technology that was going to change everything. And it did. It was called RSS. For those that don't know, it was a syndication protocol that enabled at that time for people to subscribe to blogs or podcasts and
Hmm.
then get updates in something called a feed reader. By the way, we don't do any of that stuff now because it happens seamlessly in the background on your Facebook news feed, in iTunes, on your YouTube. Like we don't have to deal. Oh, you had to actually grab and subscribe and find the RSS code and subscribe to it and then add that to your feed. It's like,
Crazy. Yeah.
but it's the exact same thing.
Right.
Like you take a feed reader, that's the same as a wallet today. Like you take an RSS feed, that's the same as your hash code for you're trying to get your coin. Like all of those things are very similar, and that was done in a very decentralized way back then because the files could have been stored on third party servers or on your own desktop or whatever. It's very different. So what I'm saying is, and from years from now, we should not ever even have to say crypto. We just say the Jeremiah coin. We can transact. All those things can happen seamlessly in the
Hmm.
background. Like if there's a trusted relationship between me and my fan, and I say this is available for X coin or you're a premium member, it should happen seamlessly wherever I go on the web. And I think that's where we're going to head.
Yeah. It's funny because when you're comparing that example to where we are right now, you're right. Everything should happen seamlessly underneath the surface. Nobody should be able to tell what's going on.
That's right.
But when you're using wallets right now, you have that conversation of should this be a custodial wallet or a non-custodial wallet? Should users be able to have the option to own the keys to which their tokens are sitting on rather than leveraging like the seamless onboard experience when you open a new account and they just create a new wallet for you off the bat because you don't need to think twice about that stuff, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it'd be interesting to see how that kind of like plays down the line exactly with that
and
example.
and I understand and appreciate the DeFi movement, and I understand why it exists, and I'm for the crowd. But let's not forget that Goldman Sachs, Fidelity, and Schwab, they're headed this way. They're going to incorporate cryptos in their own wallets. Like the main powers are going to incorporate it both ways, just as we saw Google and the big companies incorporate RSS. So I
Sure.
see this pendulum swing from decentralized to centralized back and forth and back and forth. And that is the nature of the web, of tech. So it'll be fun to see.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to see. So, one of the biggest, I guess, questions when people launch their coin, they say, okay, I launched my coin. It's publicly trading. Anybody can buy it. But what's next? What's the utility? How do I create value with it? How do you kind of approach that?
Right. And every creator is different. So the way that I use it, I already mentioned, I'm using it to integrate with my Twitter interactions. People want to purchase my quote, reach or influence. I also use it. People ask me for, hey, can you look at this? Can you advise me on this? I don't have a great way to do that. I'd have to set up a big contract, or I do it for free. Now I do it with the JOW coin. They purchase the coin, they donate it to me. It's done so simple, so easy on both parties. And I've done this and helped a number of startups. Sometimes I had a big brand, a huge brand, one of the big tech companies in Silicon Valley. They hired me as a creator to facilitate experiences in Clubhouse when it was red hot in Q1 2021. And I hosted a couple of shows. But one of the keys to success in Clubhouse is having the right people on stage that trigger notifications to bring people.
Right.
So I took a third of the budget and I hired Clubhouse influencers, and I tipped them using my own JOW coin.
Smart.
And they love that because it wasn't enough money where we wanted to do like formal contracts, but it was like a tip to them, and some of them already had their own coin. So basically it was like, it literally was the creator economy on top of the Clubhouse platform, but we don't need to access the Clubhouse API. It's happening in a very ephemeral way. So there's a few examples of how I'm using it. And of course, we're getting ready for NFTs.
That's powerful. That's really powerful. Yeah. That's something that hasn't been able to be done until now. Right. And you can integrate these tipping processes, mechanisms. Well, at least you should be able to do it with any platform. That kind of goes back to what you're saying in the beginning. These social tokens need to be integrated across everything, right? Every single platform that a creator is going to be touching, there needs to be some easy integrations to connect those tokens, to connect those wallets, and facilitate those transactions. And
it's not just tipping, right? Because people say, well, why don't you just use Cash App or PayPal or Venmo? Yeah, you could. But the difference when I give somebody my coin is I'm building a long-term relationship. Because every Saturday they get a piece of that rally reward from my coin, and therefore they want to promote it. We're literally bonded, like in a way. And many of those creators, they purchase my coin, I purchase their coin. And because we're part of the rally network, if the whole rally network goes up, the value of all of our coins goes up. So we actually are cross collaborating as creators as well. So that's, and we have our own back channel. We have our own calls. We have our own Zoom sessions once a month. Like we have our own thing going on. Again, it's getting pretty powerful, this network. I wanted to share some other examples as well, if I could.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so these are some other creators as well. There's a famous DJ named Illmind, and he will do custom beats for you if you purchase his coin, and he also uses it in other ways as well. There's another DJ called Jaws, and people are saying, hey, can you please include my track into your mix? And he gets asked that all the time. So he says, you know what? You got to buy my coin, the BTX coin. And he created a voting page. And if you own the coin, you can vote up the songs. So he's using it as a way for crowd curation. So there's so many ways we can use it. I mean, it's programmable money, right? It's software. Like it's not just like me giving you, a dollar, like fiat currency.
That's something Cash App can't do. That's something Venmo can't do.
That's exactly right. And Patreon can't do. And the point system on Reddit or whatever. Like literally, there's an API, and we can use it to validate user or validate how many tokens do they own. We can use it to gate. There's many ways to use it as actual software.
Powerful. That is powerful. What's up, guys? Really quick, just want to shout out our amazing sponsors who are helping make Season 1 a reality. Season 1 welcomes Coinvise, where you can create a personal or community-owned social token on Ethereum. Coinvise also helps you create incentives through token rewards and bounties, NFT business models, and bot integrations for Discord. Go check him out at coinvise.co. Season 1 welcomes POAP, P-O-A-P, short for Proof of Attendance Protocol, which enables a novel way of creating one's life diary. Leveraging NFT tech, POAP facilitates an easy way to mint non-fungible tokens related to meaningful events. It's frequently used in crypto-native communities, and now it's starting to create NFT collectors in the mainstream too. They are hiring for roles like biz dev, key account management, and operations. You can apply by visiting adamlevy.io/POAP. That's POAP. All right, back to the episode. So when you're thinking about creating utility, what is there a framework that you use to generate this value, to gamify incentives? Like what how do you approach that yourself, and what could you kind of tell other creators when they're trying to think of that?
So what we try to do is, so every creator is different. So the Twitch streamers, who I haven't talked about enough because I'm not from that world,
Sure.
they use it to host games and actual contests. And you purchase their coin to buy into it, and then you get rewards from the Ali Straza coin, Ali coin, ALLIE coin, for example. So they use it in their world for things they're already doing. So the first thing we do is we tell creators, what are you already doing? And how can you integrate it? And secondly, what is something that people are asking you for all the time, but you just don't get paid for it? It could be a small thing. Let's use that with your coin and monetize it. And the third thing we say is this: what is some remnant value? Perhaps it's photos that didn't make it into your book. Maybe it's B-roll from a YouTube video. Maybe it's a recording from a concert of an actual music artist that they just happen to click play, record on an iPad on stage, and people are saying, I want that recording, but they don't know how to distribute it in the right way. So that remnant value from the creator, you can put that up in a coin-gated Discord server or whatever and make that happen. So do what you're already doing. Don't make more work for yourself. Anytime anybody's asking you for something extra that's a little something, ask for some tipping or coin. And 3, find that remnant value and coin gate it.
Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, so cool. I'm so curious how creative these individuals are going to get when it comes to tokenizing their value and the incentives that they provide. And I guess more about this because you brought up a really cool example from the social audio space with Clubhouse particularly. How do you imagine social tokens being integrated on there even more, like beyond what you're talking about?
So using paidrooms.ch, club owners can create private rooms already. So we can expect, and that's a feature that Clubhouse is going to do natively, but people will use a credit card to swipe. But we could do that in other ways in different layers. So that's one example. Also, you could prioritize who gets on stage. There's always this request to get on the stage or be the speaker, and that could be on Twitter Spaces as well. It could be on your podcast, frankly. Well, whoever is the top coin holder, you've proven you're a top fan, or who's the longest term coin holder, right? You could see who's been the longest fan, or you could tip in order to say, I want to speak. So you could integrate it for engagement. And then thirdly, you could reward your top fans. For example, let's say somebody wanted to transcribe, one of the videos and put it into quick, Cliff Notes, a short version. Give them a piece of the coin, like tip them out. But then you take that bit and you sell it on Substack using your coin. Like, there's so many ways you can do this. Like, there's just like no limit. Like, so many business models can emerge. And I just can't begin to tell you. Like, we have this playbook. It's like hundreds of slides of options.
I love how excited you are about it. It's so authentic and it's so real. I love it. But again, so are you guys taking it, or is Rally, I guess, from your point of view, are they taking it upon themselves to create those tools to enable more utility? Or is that something that's going to kind of be onboarded or independent from another third-party company kind of thing, or is it all going to be within, you imagine it being all within the ecosystem of Rally?
Yeah, so it's actually just, it is a community. It truly is. So there's a Rally forums, there's a Rally Discord, and we're talking. There's Zoom calls called the community calls where we're all discussing all different parties. So there's the Rally team, there's the creators, there's third-party developers, and then there's the fans. And we're all talking and saying, what do we want? In fact, the creators, we have our own canny board where you can submit ideas and we vote them up. And there's a team that reviews those as well. I have my hand in both camps. I'm an advisor to Rally, and I'm also a creator. So I'm dealing with all that and very involved with the project in that way. Rally's been hiring a number of really amazing folks from Patreon and YouTube and Spotify and Kickstarter. Like, it is really a Class A team that knows how to work with creators and creatives. and they're going to help put together a roadmap as well as onboard folks. So to answer your question, it is a collective. And the way things are done is the rally team listens to what is being done, and they put forth a proposal to the community. And then that proposal is put up on Snapshot, and we connect our wallets. And if you own Rally tokens, you can vote. And so we are voting for how the Rally tokens will be distributed and who will do it. And there's an active discussion. Like for me to be an advisor, I had to submit and do a video, and then the community had to approve that I would be an advisor.
Wow. So even when it came to onboarding and hiring internally. Wow.
Well, for this role, for an advisor that was done, but for the core roles, that's not being done because often those people work at really grade A platforms. So we don't want that to be.
No, for sure. You talked a little bit about these business models, and I want to pull up a tweet that it was announced yesterday. Okay. It came from an individual called Colin Landforce. Okay. And whether this number is true or not. Okay. Let's just hypothesize for a minute and entertain the tweet. Okay. Starbucks customers have something like $1.4 billion in balances in their Starbucks app at any given time.
Wow.
We give them $1.5 billion loan, no interest, and only ask for it back when we want them to buy some 90% margin coffee from them. Right. And these are points essentially that are sitting on gift cards, right? Or on the Starbucks app that are just sitting there, right? In a way to kind of incentivize users to come back. Isn't this the perfect type of model for a social token, a community token, or a brand token in a sense, where if this was all done on chain, for example, Starbucks would release some form of stable social coin, okay, that can then be natively integrated across Ethereum or the Web3 ecosystem. And you can earn interest on it, you can earn yields. Like, wouldn't this be the perfect type of place to interact and experiment with? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. So to me, the first player to do this would be like Tesla, for example. It makes sense that they could do this for sure. So in this case, I am familiar with loyalty programs. I did some projects in that space. And the big brands, they love it as loyalty, but also in the book, sometimes they're listed as liabilities too, because if they're not used. So big companies really struggle with this, but let's just entertain the thought of using a brand token. It can, in fact, one of the top home improvement retailer, the executives were reaching to me like, could we use this? And they weren't sure. And in general, they're going to struggle because they're worried it's going to conflict with their stock token on NASDAQ or a New York Stock Exchange. So I don't see it happening for a while. But yes, a social token could be done for a brand, but I would also extend it to, let's just take, I think Tesla is the great example.
Okay.
Because you could use it to actually look for provenance of parts. Like, is that third party, like car mat or battery that you're buying, is it really from a Tesla approved vendor, and did it come from a blood mine? Let's go all the way back to like, where did the actual parts come from? And, has it been ethically sourced? So that's one great way to use blockchain. But secondly, Tesla's great example, because as you generate power from your roof of your solar, or you're using a charging stations, you could use a Tesla coin for the whole ecosystem to track that. And that's a form of building loyalty. So I think that's a way where we can make that happen. Yes, but for Starbucks, I think it's possible. I just highly suspect they wouldn't really put it on chain. They would just call it like the mermaid coin and just leave it on app, and it's on their Amazon servers only. To be honest,
that'd be so epic. I like to think that far in advance, because if we're tokenizing everything, that's like the narrative. Everything is going to be tokenized, right? And you're thinking about like loyalty and membership rewards, and you're thinking about fan clubs. You're trying to build like a more modern day fan club here, right? And that extends beyond creators. That starts affecting big brands, big companies. And it's funny that you brought up that example, that it's a public company that was interested in experimenting with social tokens, but they weren't sure how it would fluctuate with their public stock.
No, they would be worried it'd be in conflict.
It would be in conflict. Okay. Yeah. In terms of like, what should people buy and invest in? Or
they couldn't launch. Like, this is a big retailer, huge retailer. There's several of them in every city. And they're like, well, I can't launch my own brand coin because I'm listing my own coin on NASDAQ. So it would confuse the market. They're just worried about the Fed and SEC. It's just like, we don't know where to start and stop with that.
Yeah. That's like Ripple, like throwing out rumors that they're going to take Ripple public, but they still have XRP that's kind of publicly traded, right? And how would that kind of work, and what would be the structure behind that? But anyways, different discussion for a different time.
I think we could revisit that discussion next summer, and there might be some teeth to sink into that, but it's still too early. But I'm definitely thinking about that. It's like, how could that happen?
Yeah. I want to bring up another point, and it's I touched upon it with Starbucks for a minute.
Yeah.
So a lot of these tokens, they fluctuate, right? They're variable, and from an investor point of view, they can be deemed as a great investment. If they believe in a creator, they want to help bootstrap liquidity, they want to support them. And on the audience side, they enable access, reward, and payment to an extent, right?
That's right.
But really, the way I see it right now, social tokens could either be classified like as a security or as a loyalty or in rewards and memberships type of token. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Would it be wise, and I haven't seen anybody do this, would it be wise to issue tokens, creator tokens, as stable coins rather than assets that fluctuate? And the only reason I bring that up is because if you're creating systems where you want to incentivize people and reward people, right? Or you want to create access or gated kind of content, and you're telling users to buy an asset that fluctuates, I'm thinking of this from the point of view that fans, audiences, someone's going to lose at some point, right? Don't you think like someone's going to lose when they're buying a speculative asset, or I don't even want to call it asset. Let's say a speculative token, because I don't know what to classify it as per se, but they're buying something that fluctuates up and down based off the market's health, right? Would it be wise to kind of approach use case dependent? Would it be wise to approach it maybe from a stable coin point of view?
I think that's a great idea. I think that could be done. That's a really interesting idea, but I think you need a large enough economy. And like, what would you base it off? Are you going to base it off USD?
Exactly. So you create a pool on Uniswap that's like the native token and USDC, right? And you peg that token's value to 1 of 1, and they can use those tokens as a form of like that's where Starbucks could actually do a point system, right? That they can leverage those assets. Like from this tweet, they can leverage all these points that are being stacked up in the wallet as a way to kind of generate a new form of economy. So let's say they have $1.4 billion. Nobody's using that. They can lend that money out to pools on Aave or Compound, earn interest off of it. And when users are ready to spend it, for example, they can process those transactions or kind of work out the kinks between, you know what I mean? I'm thinking out loud here.
And I'm sure it would be discussed, should a mermaid coin be pegged off the Starbucks price, the NASDAQ
there you go.
price.
There you
so
go.
That would be another thing.
Yeah.
Just real quick point on your earlier question on that, though. Rally is a utility token, right? Because you're using it to get other things. So to be clear, it is not a speculative investment. That's not how we pitch it.
I'm talking about in general, right?
Yeah,
in general, for the creator coins in general, because you're seeing like BitClout, right? And you're seeing those types of assets with a steep bonding curve and them appreciating in value, depreciating based off the demand pressure. But in general, right? Like at some point, you also think you want to be able to, like, if you could crowdfund an early musician's career and that musician could kind of reward his early backers with on-chain revenue, right? And you'd be able to track that. I'm thinking about this from like different kind of point of views here.
So my general take, Adam, is that the instability is all part of the innovation curve and the early innovation curve. And I think it's okay. Like right now, only the early adopters are jumping in and they're like cool with it. And the folks that have joined in Rally, they are folks that have adopted digital first, like in every wave. I know their background. I've recruited many of them. So I know they're totally comfortable with that. And as the mainstream comes, in general, in my opinion, most of these cryptos and broader, the whole space will start to stabilize, right? As we have large institutions, financial institutions, and the ones I mentioned earlier moving in, plus the Fed regulating, right? So I think it's okay for fluctuations to happen. Yes, I know we just hit a crypto winter this last month. It hurt us all who have our own wallets and portfolios. Yeah. But I think we know that's the risk that's going to happen as an early adopter. And that's the way that you innovate, is during those cycles. So in my opinion, I think this just comes with that. Like, for example, the early social networking space, there was over 20, 30 different social networks that were doing micro messaging. Only one really won Twitter, right? And so you want to see what is best of breed. And so there was
Yeah.
a high degree of fluctuation. So to me, I'm okay with it.
It's part of the game, is what you're saying.
It's part of the innovation cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that high flux that happens like within a few months in traditional industries takes 10 to 20 years. So it helps us to innovate faster.
Yeah. And I guess what you're building here is a network effect, because the more the more hodlers, quote unquote, I guess the higher the price will go, right? The more FOMO it's going to create for other people to join in and kind of access those incentives and those gated content perks that people might build for themselves in their communities, right? So I think there's value there 100%. But you know where I'm thinking about this from? I'm thinking about this from like a Black Mirror point of view. Okay, let's get super creative here. Okay,
all right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so it's 2030 right now. Okay, everything is tokenized. Okay, people are tokenized. Their audiences and their communities are not their audiences, but their communities are tokenized. Their audiences can buy into them. Everybody is publicly trading on the markets, right? And yours is trading, which I checked earlier, like about a couple hours ago, at what, $7.73. Let's say Miley Cyrus has one that's trading at $150. Justin Bieber has one at $200, et cetera, right? Right now, we determine influence based off, or a lot of society at least. I don't want to put everyone into a shell, but a lot of people in society determine influence based off their follower count, right?
Sure.
Oh, this person has 10 million followers. They're insanely influential.
Right.
Do you think we'll start shifting that narrative where people's value will be determined based off what they're publicly traded on the market?
They are interdependent numbers for sure, because the influence helps you to get more sponsors and an audience. So they're absolutely going to be intertwined. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, but do you think that the dollar amount will have more influence over the follower count?
I mean, but this. I think they'll be aligned. I think they'll be parallel. So I don't think one will be greater. I think you'll see both numbers and know both numbers, and they'll be intertwined. But none of this is new. We've always had, different ways to. I mean, at one point is who owned the most clamshell necklaces, or who had the most round stone things in front of their homes. And you don't have enough room in front of your home. Buy the guys over there that aren't going to move. Like, I mean, even at the Bitcoin conference last week, there's the whale pass, 1 BTC to get it. I mean, this level of privilege, we'll find a new number. Like before social media, we would use something else. So, sure, yeah, I think so. But in this case, this number represents your engaged community that believes in the creator's ability.
That's a good point of view.
Right.
That's a great point of view.
And it could be a more valuable metric than just followers, which we know people buy followers too. So if you're going to buy social tokens, you're actually using some type of quid. You're using some currency, whether it's US dollars or ETH or BTC to purchase it. So there's actual, perhaps even a more truer sense of value than just followers. Don't know.
That's a great point. That I've never heard someone bring that point up. That's a very unique point.
Well, nobody's brought this discussion to me. You brought it to me. So I didn't have that thought. We did it together.
I love it. I love it. All right. I have a final question for you. Okay. At the time of this chat right now, JOW is trading at about what, $7.73.
Cool.
What does that price mean to you, if anything?
To me, the dollar amount, yeah, I mean that's great. I mean, I can tell you, I mean that's cool. That's great. I mean, but it's
a great number, by the way, compared to, like, if you see the roster of like the 100+ creators, right? It's like it's doing really, really well.
We want everybody to do well. It's not just about me. Like, I'm onboarding my friends. So, so to share with you, so the way that it works is, so there's like a market cap of my whole coin economy. And so I own 43%. I own over 50. So each creator is issued 50,000 tokens. So I have 50,000 plus more, can I purchase on my own, times that $7. That's how much the market cap is of that coin, plus the rally rewards, and then plus people are going to interact with me and use my token for the different creator things that I do or influencer things that I do.
Sure.
So I mean, yeah, it's great, but this only works if the whole rally network goes up, because I'm pegged off the rally token, the JOW coin, but that is the main token of this sidechain.
Right.
So if that is at a low price, it doesn't matter what my coin is worth. So we want to collaboratively get all creators to be, kicking butt.
Amazing. I think that's an amazing spot to end off. Jeremiah.
So
yeah, go
before
ahead.
we end on that, I want to make sure I send you my coin, a number of my coins to you as a thank you. And I want to make sure you have it because we're now bonded. We're part of the same community.
I'd love that. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. You've been awesome. You're a pool of knowledge. And it's been a privilege to talk to you. Thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to hearing more. Bye-bye.